This program is part of the Cosmic Potato Podcast Network. For more shows like this, visit our website at cosmicpotatonetwork.com.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
I am Iron Man. That's a big point.
Pizza Dude's got 30 seconds.
You are a toy!
It's Leviosa, not Leviosa.
Why so serious?
You see these flying? We're fighting an army of robots. And I have a bow and arrow. None of this makes sense.
And welcome to World War G, episode 259. I'm Troy.
Guys, I want you to meet a really good friend of mine. This is Troy.
I'm AJ.
AJ? What kind of name is AJ? What, do you race cars?
Okay, let's just jump right into it here. Today in Geek History.
Look, up in the sky! It's a bird!
It's a plane!
Today in Geek History! So, today back in 1930, March 8th, 1930, Babe Ruth signs a 2-year contract for $160,000 with New York Yankee GM Ed Barrow.
The great Bambino.
Yep, who wrongly predicts that, quote, no one will ever be paid more than Ruth.
Oh, man.
Oh, if you only knew.
Right? Some of these dudes with these contracts, $100 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for a couple of years, and so much is guaranteed. It's insane.
Like, I don't even think rookies make 160. I don't think they even make more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
you could be playing in like the minor leagues and potentially make more than that.
Yeah.
Through endorsements or anything else.
I'm sure back in the day, $160,000 was a lot of money.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that was. Or is now.
Kind of like calculating that there. Yeah, there's got to be a site that you can figure it out. I actually recently read, or I'm reading this book. It's a Tom Clancy series.
Yeah.
Net Force. And, well, it's more of like the youth Net Force group, like younger. This is more for teenage readers, but it's really well done. And there's a scene where they go to this, they see these virtual reality characters on the field that are playing baseball, and they put in an algorithm to what their batting average was, everything that they have on them stats-wise, and have them basically play against other people. But yeah, Babe Ruth ends up getting shot in the book. But
Really?
Yeah. Because these cyber terrorists come out with like Tommy guns. This is within the first chapter. They come out with Tommy guns and just start mowing down people that are in these VRs that are watching the game, like from the comfort of their own living room.
Yeah.
And then they also mow down all the players as well. Yeah.
Jeez. So, $160,000 in 1930 is worth today $2,390,455.
That was for a 2-year contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about a little over $1 million a year.
Yep. Still,
that's pretty dang good back in the day.
Yeah.
That'll buy you a lot of hot dogs. Ballpark Franks, I don't know.
Well, if it was Babe Ruth, it was a lot of hot dogs and whiskey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And women.
He never seemed like he was the most in-shape player.
He wasn't.
And his batting stance was kind of weird. I don't know. I've never seen a professional start with the baseball bat on their shoulder and then try to swing it that way. Right?
Yeah, it was really weird.
I've not watched a ton of baseball, but that just to me doesn't seem like very efficient. Because you're pulling it down and losing some of that momentum. I golf a lot, so I kind of get the idea. But, he's pulling it down from his shoulder and down and out. It just seems like you're losing a lot. You could hit it further. He could potentially get more home runs had he, actually had a decent stance. But I guess it worked for him.
Yeah, it worked.
enough to get paid. So
yeah,
and laid.
Paid and laid.
There you go. And they named a candy bar after him.
Actually, the company says they didn't.
Yeah. Oh, that's a complete lie.
So,
is that because they don't want to pay his family?
I think so. They didn't want to pay him.
Yeah.
So they said that it was from, I think there was one of the people in the company had a daughter named Ruth, and they said that's who was named after.
Baby Ruth. Our little baby Ruth.
So, Babe Ruth went and essentially made his own candy bar.
Yeah.
Which didn't sell.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, but he said that he would never eat one of their candy bars. I don't know. There was a whole thing about it.
That to me seems kind of shady because he's a popular, iconic character and they name it after him, but then they say they don't, But I guess like the lawsuits and the, I don't know what you'd call it, weren't up to par back then.
Yeah.
As far as like the legal teams.
Yeah, because it was introduced in 1921.
It's been years. It's been about that long since I've had a Babe Ruth.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, 1920, the Curtis Candy Company refashioned its candy cake into the Baby Ruth, and it became a best-selling confection in the 5-cent confectionery category by late 1920s. The bar was a staple of Chicago-based company for the next 7 decades.
You'd think they'd just pay him out. Be like, hey, would you care to endorse this and be, I don't know.
Yeah, you'd think. Although the name of the candy bar sounds like the name of the famous baseball player Babe Ruth, the Curtis Candy Company traditionally claimed that it was named after President Grover Cleveland's daughter, Ruth Cleveland. So it was the president's daughter.
Aha.
The candy maker, located on the same street as Wrigley Field, named the bar Babe Ruth in 1921 as Babe Ruth's fame was on the rise. 24 years after Cleveland had left the White House and 17 years after his daughter Ruth had died.
Yeah, okay, guys.
Mm-hmm. The company did not negotiate an endorsement deal with Ruth, and many saw the company's story about the origin of the name to be a devious way to avoid having to pay the baseball player any royalties. Curtis successfully shut down a rival bar that was approved by and named for Ruth on the grounds that the names were too similar. So there you go.
Yeah. So they were able to shut down his candy bar, but then they continued to sell theirs.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Yeah, no. It was named after, okay, if you, invoke the name of a president or a former president, then, like, it has some validity or something, you know what I mean? Like, or, like, oh, that's untouchable. You can't do anything about that.
Yeah, or it was because, both Grover Cleveland and his daughter were dead, so it's like, what are they going to do?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's... yeah.
It just seems shady all around. It's like the Founder all over again, kind of a deal, right?
It is, yeah.
We needed to make this movie, though. We need to get more information on it and make this movie. Nobody steal our ideas. This is a good one.
And we'll call it the Babe Ruth movie, and people will be very confused when they go to watch it.
Because no. We're naming it after her.
Yes.
R.I.P. Ruth.
Exactly.
Speaking of famous women, Lizzie McGuire, the Lizzie McGuire reboot. Hilary Duff doesn't want it to be quite so family friendly. Now that she's in her, her 30s,
mm-hmm.
she's wanting to be able to make something that's above a PG rating. Right? And it was initially set to be released on Disney Plus, so she'd have to stay within those parameters as far as being like a goody good.
Right, she'd have to be squeaky clean.
Exactly.
Which I guess she thinks is not realistic for 30. Does she want Lizzie McGuire to slut it up?
A little bit. That's what I'm thinking, right?
Interesting.
So she's asked that they move it to a different platform, to Hulu, where Disney already has like a majority shares hold on it. They own the majority of the company.
Yeah.
So that could potentially happen. Although I feel like Disney, where they're kind of struggling a little bit to keep people coming back.
Yeah.
They're looking for any type of thing that they can, and to move one of their products over to Hulu, yeah, they're still going to get money, but I honestly don't see Disney doing this.
Mm-hmm.
As much as they want to be like nice and let her kind of, be a little bit more mature. I'm not seeing Disney moving.
I wouldn't think so. Did you read her tweet here? She says, was incredibly excited to launch Lizzie on Disney Plus, or she call it D Plus.
Yeah.
And my passion remains. However, I feel a huge responsibility to honor the fans' relationship with Lizzie, who, like me, grew up seeing themselves in her. I'd be doing a disservice to everyone by limiting the realities of a 30-year-old's journey to live under the ceiling of a PG rating. It's important to me, just as her experiences as a preteen/teenager navigating life were authentic, her next chapters are equally as real and relatable. It would be a dream if Disney would let us move the show to Hulu, if they were interested, and I could bring this beloved character to life again.
So she's kind of giving him an ultimatum, though.
Kind of sounds like it.
At the very tail end, that's what it kind of sounds like. Man, that's kind of funny. She wants to be able to get the D, but not stream it on the D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she wants want to show Lizzie what car payments and mortgages and
all that jazz,
job loss and
Tinder
and
would that? I think it would do well though.
Yeah. Have her grow up a little bit and have her kind of show what life is actually like for a 30-year-old nowadays.
Right. Depressing as hell.
Yeah. Because you don't really see that. You see a lot of shows that are from for teens or for people in their 20s, early 20s. Not a lot of shows are showing what life is like for us 30-somethings right now.
That's true. There's
we're just
only a few of them out there.
Yeah, we're just the ones that are just towing the line,
Right.
Because all the people before us are getting ready to retire and everything, and the ones after us are partying it up right now. So we're the ones that are out in the workforce making the world go round.
We're the ones actually watching these shows. We're the ones moving the cog.
That's right.
And they don't show us. We are not represented.
We're not. I want to see myself represented in television.
Same.
Where's the 30-year-old white man in TV? That's what I want to know.
Yeah, that's going to go over well. I just took a hard left. Okay, if anything, it'd be more right, but yeah.
Yeah, So James Bond, No Time to Die, has been postponed 7 months. MGM, Universal and Bond producers Michael G. Wilson and Barbara Broccoli announced today that after careful consideration and thorough evaluation of the global theatrical marketplace, the release of No Time to Die will be postponed until November 2020. Because they were afraid that right now, nobody's really going to movies. Because everybody's scared of getting sick.
I don't feel like that's the case, though. We've survived these other, the bird flu, the swine flu, all of these other ones.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I still feel like there are people going out to the movies. Do you think? I thought they were going to say that they were postponing it because of the, the virus has been going around, and like they're worried about the film and like the crew and everybody else. Because I know even like a ton of athletes have stopped kind of being so like friendly with the crowds and stuff because they don't want to get sick.
Yeah.
You know? So everybody's kind of like on edge, but because they're worried about the numbers not being so great.
Yeah.
So like the movie's already been like finished?
Oh yeah, movie's done. Yeah, the movie was set to come out next month. Yeah, the movie's been done for a long time. But yeah, they're pushing it back to November.
I feel like we need to change this from like thanks a lot Obama to thanks a lot, you know.
Corona.
Like, Corona. Yeah. Corona is losing everything, or it's causing everything.
Well, there are Comic-Cons that are being shut down because of this.
Yeah.
And so it's possible that may happen here with Fanix. They may shut it down. But it's not till September, so maybe it'll be further out. Because my guess is, once we're out of cold and flu season and the weather starts to warm up, people will forget all about this.
Oh, yeah. Give it like 2 months?
Yeah.
No. I feel like there's more of a, like, this, not to get all political, but I feel like a lot of the times when these big things happen up, they blow them out of proportion. Not to say that it's not, like, real and, like, quite a few people are dying pretty rapidly, but no more than some of these other things, diseases and other stuff, but it's kind of like, hey, look over here while other stuff's going on.
Right.
That we could be paying attention to.
Right. Yeah, people are making a massive deal out of this, and I don't think they need to.
Yeah.
Basically, just be smart.
Wash your hands.
Wash your hands.
Let's give like a public service announcement here, right?
World War G says, wash your hands. I mean, that's really
you heard it here first.
And stop buying those surgical masks. Unless you're sick, you don't need them.
Yeah.
They're for people who are sick. They're not for you.
Did you see that little video, the shortest horror movie ever?
Oh, yeah.
I posted it.
I did, yeah.
Ah, hilarious. This gentleman, he's like, they're all wearing masks. They're standing by a bus stop. He starts coughing, pulls down his mask, spits into the water, but then the bus that pulls up splashes the water on the whole entire crowd behind him. Yeah. Yeah. And that was the end of the film.
Yep.
Including all of them. But, yeah. There was another television show that I was watching like a couple of months ago that all these kids were wearing surgical masks because they were worried about catching an STD. It was hilarious. They were just, yeah, there was this one kid that was just like trying to capitalize on it and say like, hey, $2 a surgical mask. Yeah. So everybody, including one of the teachers, was wearing like these masks at this assembly. Yeah.
All right.
But, yeah. Side tangent. So, The Last of Us is looking to have its own series. The series is in the works for HBO, and it's going to be from the creator of Chernobyl. Have you had a chance to check out Chernobyl?
No, I haven't.
It was it was a really well done series, and I feel like that it's in good hands. And I would actually be pretty interested to see this. I feel like hopefully they can expand on the whole Last of Us universe, but also stay true to The Last of Us 2 that's coming out here soon.
Yeah.
So that it doesn't get all convoluted, but I don't want them to just do like shot for shot of the television show or of the movie or video game onto the television show.
Uh-huh.
I'd like them to kind of like branch out a little bit and give us some more insight into the Fireflies, and the government and everything else that's like taking place in this universe.
Right.
Because even though it only focuses primarily on a handful of people and Joel and Ellie being in the forefront, there's a whole like apocalyptic world with creatures and stuff going on.
Right.
So, to me, I feel like this has like a ton of potential, and if they get the casting right, I would really love to see this.
Well, that's just what I was trying to look up. I thought I saw some casting news about it, but I guess that was what fans think that they should do.
Speculation of what they would like to, who they would like to see as these characters.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like you do have to make sure that you get the age gap difference, like, perfectly.
Yeah.
Right? There's got to be, like, because Ellie, yeah, she's grown up in this universe, and she's always known, like, creatures and zombies and stuff like that. But one of the things that they did so perfectly in the game is they had him where he'd already, like, had a daughter that was her age, but then, like, 20 years down the road, he's having to deal with, like, a kid again, all over again. And that creates a lot of problems and issues. But she's nothing like his daughter because she swears, she fights back, she's... I don't know. She seems like a tougher version of his daughter.
Uh-huh.
So...
Yeah.
I don't know. I almost feel like you'd need somebody that was maybe about 15, 16 or so, and then somebody more along the lines of like Hugh Jackman's age, you know, in their 50s.
Yeah, early 50s.
Right.
Late 40s. Yeah.
Just so that even if this series goes on for a couple of seasons, she doesn't grow up too quickly to where you lose all of that innocence that she supposedly has.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think people are saying that they wanted Nikolai Coster-Waldau from Game of Thrones to be Joel.
Okay.
And they showed a picture of him with like a beard and stuff and like longer-ish hair, and he did kind of look like him. So I don't know.
It's got potential.
Yeah.
I'm still just looking for the second game.
Right.
Like, I'm looking forward to that so dang much. I've already got it pre-ordered and paid for. Like, I just... And they pushed it back, and... Yeah.
Was that because of the coronavirus, too?
It was. Thanks a lot, coronavirus.
So this was kind of cool. Taika Waititi, who you'll know as the director of Thor Ragnarok, and he's been in a few other things now, is set to direct Charlie and the Chocolate Factory animated series for Netflix. So apparently Netflix has the rights to pretty much all of Roald Dahl's works.
Yeah. And
pretty much most of his books are going to be made into animated series and put on Netflix exclusively. And so I guess...
Do they have a name for this universe?
I would guess the Wonkaverse?
Okay.
Or the Roald Dahl? I don't know.
Because it's going to be all of his works, right?
A lot of them, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what he's going to do... So the first series will center on the book's famous characters, including the eccentric chocolate factory owner Willy Wonka, while the second one will be a fresh take on the Oompa Loompas, the small humans from the Loompa Land.
This has the potential to be horrible.
Or it has potential to be really good.
Right.
Because Taika Waititi is really good. And I think he would lend his personality and sense of humor, I think, really lends itself well to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Because Willy Wonka himself is really eccentric and like kind of weird and all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like the area that it could fall flat on its face is with these Oompa Loompas.
Mm.
You know, this series lives or like I honestly don't feel like it would be somewhere in the middle where you're like, okay, I mean, it was okay, it was decent. It's either going to be like, wow, that was really like horrible. I only watched it like an episode and didn't much care for it. Or you're like, all right, I'm intrigued. Let's see where they go with this.
Yeah, it's like it's like when they made Despicable Me and they tried to do like just the Minions movie.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing.
Like, are they going to be that interesting enough that they can really stand on their own?
I don't think so.
The Oompa Loompas?
Now
yeah.
Think about it. No.
Right?
No. I don't need to see a prequel to Willy Wonka. That's not something that needs to be done. That's not something that's interesting to me.
Right.
Like, I don't care what the Oompa Loompas were doing before they went to Willy Wonka.
What were they doing?
I don't know. We don't really get much of their life. In the original one, he basically just said that they were running from the wild beasts of their land and being eaten up.
Yeah.
More
like Aborigine kind of people.
Yeah.
Or like a wild people.
Where in the Tim Burton's version, they were these, like you said, they were these jungle natives and...
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It was weird.
I like to think that they were genetically made.
Really?
Yeah. That he was trying to make a human candy hybrid. And his experiment went awry, and he created, it's like a mix between an everlasting gobstopper and a human.
They do kind of look like candy.
Right?
Yeah.
I bet you could lick an Oompa Loompa, and he would taste like, an orange...
Snozzberry.
A snozzberry. He tastes like something. Lick an Oompa Loompa. No?
Yeah, but I don't know. I think the first series where it's kind of a remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, I think that could be good.
Right.
But yeah, I don't think the Oompa Loompas thing needs to happen, frankly.
So are they going to, do you think they would have in this series, Charlie would have already won?
No. I think they're just retelling the story.
Oh, in animated form?
Yeah.
Okay. Which... you could be crazier and zanier and go over the top with this.
Yeah.
Right? You can do whatever you want. I feel like it's going to be kind of similar to Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Right?
Yeah.
Where you see like this over the top world.
Or like Despicable Me. Or
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But I also liked the practical effects in the original movie. I just completely forget about the Johnny Depp one because that was garbage. Yeah. That was complete garbage.
Yeah, that wasn't very good. Makes for a great cosplay, though.
Yeah.
I gotta say.
But as far as the Oompa Loompas and Willy Wonka and everybody else...
the movie itself wasn't great.
Wow. Yeah. I don't know. I wasn't... I can think of plenty of other animated or other, live-action movies that I'd rather, find out more about than Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Well, like I said, I think they have Netflix and the Roald Dahl estate, I think, has kind of a partnership, so...
And they need all the different, commodities that they can get right now, where it's like a bidding war for these things.
Pretty much.
So Beauty and the Beast is getting a prequel series, is in development at Disney Plus.
Here's another one we don't need.
This is going to primarily be focusing on the townspeople and all of the people that were in the castle before everything else went down. I feel like we got enough of a backstory from the new Emma Watson movie, Beauty and the Beast. I feel like the townspeople, and all the people that were at the castle kind of got their 15 minutes of fame. And you're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because I'd kind of wondered a little bit why they got changed and why they got turned into these other creatures.
Yeah.
What did they do so bad? But I feel like we already got that.
We did. And that's what they're going on, because they're bringing back Luke Evans and Josh Gad. So it really is a direct prequel to the Emma Watson Beauty and the Beast.
Do you feel like you'd have to get Emma Watson on board with this project to even make it happen for her to have a cameo?
No. I mean, she could, but I think it's if you just focus on these two and whatever they were doing.
Shenanigans they were up to.
Yeah, and again, who cares?
Nobody.
I don't care what Gaston was up to. I don't care what the Oompa Loompas were up to. I don't care what the Minions were up to. Like, all these are just cheap cash grabs. Like, that's all it is.
They really are, and I don't think they're going to do well, and they only bring down Disney's stock.
Yeah.
And let's come up with some new products.
Yes, please. And new products that aren't tied to something else. Just it's frustrating.
It really is
frustrating.
Like when you can see all these other things that they could be doing or could be working on, they choose crappy projects to hang their hat on.
Yeah, I mean, when you watch Beauty and the Beast, you don't think, I'd like to see an entire movie about Gaston. Why not focus on the prince? If you're going to do it, focus on the prince and the people in the castle and their lives.
Right.
Why not do that? To me, that's more interesting than Gaston.
Because Gaston, to me, seems very one-dimensional.
Yes, he's very one-note.
He's a womanizer that's got a grudge, and, that's about it. And he works out a lot.
Yeah.
He's not very, interesting.
But how did Gaston and LeFou meet? I don't know. Who cares?
A hunting trip. Prison. We all know who was whose bitch in prison. Oh.
Yeah. So turns out that people, or I should say adults, don't want comic book movies.
What?
Live-action comic movies. I know, crazy.
Yeah.
The Hollywood Reporter and the polling data company Morning Consult conducted the poll gauging interest in live-action adaptations of video games among 2,200 adults in the U.S. This is coming off the back of Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu and Tomb Raider. All were successful,
right? With
two of those being pretty much marketed to kids. The survey showed the potential films had less than 50% interest from adults who were very to somewhat interested. Super Mario Brothers led the poll with 44% of responders, followed by a tie of 37% each of Pac-Man and Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, Grand Theft Auto, Call of Duty, Legend of Zelda, Super Smash Bros., Tetris, and Halo rounded out the top 10 slots, respectively.
I keep hoping for them to have a really good adaptation of a video game, and they keep disappointing me. But at the same time, I feel like with this poll that they just did, they didn't really ask their key demographic, right? The people that play video games. They're asking these adults.
Well, they're asking adults. I would imagine that some of the adults played video games.
Some of them, though. Right. Yeah, of course. Okay. So if you asked a group of adults that don't like horror movies, would you like to see more horror movie? You know what I mean? It seems a little skewed.
But we don't know what kind of adults they were looking for. They don't say. They just say adults. So it's possible that they look for people who played video games exclusively. We don't know.
Yeah.
That's all they say is they asked adults. But even as somebody who plays video games, as an adult who plays video games, I don't want live action adaptations of video games.
See, yeah, I'm still sitting at about 50%.
Really?
Yeah.
I would say skew more towards animated. Especially with something like Super Smash Brothers. That could be fun.
Yeah.
Make it animated.
Right.
You know?
I feel like I would rather see like a Mario Kart one, or even like they'd said a Halo one. That could be really interesting.
I mean, so many of these movies had so much potential, like Assassin's Creed, like World of Warcraft. Those two films could potentially have been the first of two massive franchises.
Oh, yeah.
Like, World of Warcraft could have been like the next Lord of the Rings if they did it right. Unfortunately, they completely screwed it up.
Yeah. Especially when they killed off that dude, like,
killed off the main guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we start following somebody else.
Yeah.
It's just like, hold up. Like, what? Oh, okay.
Same with Assassin's Creed. You could have had a really cool, slick, kind of time travel movie.
Oh, it could have been like The Matrix.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Yes.
Dude. And like, even if they didn't show much, I know we like, when we talked about it, we were like, I would rather see them be in the past a lot more than in the future.
Yeah.
But I feel like in the second movie, then they could have been exclusively just in this other world.
Yeah.
And it could have been it could have been something amazing.
Yeah. Go from the Dark Ages, move into, pirate, move into Revolutionary War, you could keep...
Like with Black Flag, with all these other ones, yeah.
You could keep going with it.
You have this big bad corporation that's kind of like looming in the background, similar to like a Mr. Anderson and, like some of these other people that have like other invested interests for this product and for this, like they want to assassinate other people throughout history, and then this guy has to like prevent that. It could have been like Jason Bourne meets The Matrix kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And they could have made a couple of movies out of it.
Yeah.
But instead they kind of botched it, which sucks because they used they had a really good cast too.
They did. All these All these have had pretty good casts, and even some of the CG in World of Warcraft was pretty good. It looked pretty good. It looked decent, but I don't know. I don't know how they screwed it up so bad. I really don't. Because
they didn't have people that were passionate about it and actually knew what the heck they were doing.
That could be.
Right?
And I think also the other issue is that with these are, you have to send in your ideas and stuff and run it past like studios. And the people running movie studios don't play video games. They don't get it.
Right.
And so they see these scripts and stuff that are coming in and they go, well, we should have more of a romantic angle to this, and there should be a love story somewhere.
Yeah.
And, all these antiquated ideas that don't need to be in video games, essentially.
I feel like how they also pitched it, which shouldn't be taken into consideration, well, maybe a little bit, but like after the fact, is they're like, hey, look how many copies of WoW has been sold, right? We've got a huge fan base, like, wanting this movie to be made, and they're like, money? What? Huh?
Yeah.
Let's make this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to pick things that are going to do well in theaters, and I get that, like the money side of things. You're not going to want to spend $200 million if you're not going to get your money back. But yeah, like you said, let's get people on board that actually either created the project beforehand or are more passionate about it. Because some of these things that we've seen that have been so successful, like the animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right?
Yeah.
Is because you brought in some of the old, some of the new, but you also had people that grew up watching and loving this show.
Right.
So they're a heck of a lot more passionate about it.
Yeah, and I would say, again, stick to cartoons. I mean, you saw that trailer for the new Mortal Kombat movie that's coming out.
Yeah.
It's animated.
Mm-hmm.
It looks amazing.
Oh, it looks great.
Yeah. Because that's where it should be. It should be animated. Not live action. Live action just doesn't work.
See, and that's where DC does so well, to kind of like, they have these animated movies that do fantastic, but you could bring them to the big screen, right?
Yeah.
Why not take a page out of their book and do that with these video game adaptations?
Yeah.
Then it's a lot easier to kind of like have them do these crazy over the top stunts, and it doesn't seem so unrealistic.
Yeah. I mean, some of these video game companies have the money that they could create their own movie studio. Like, I'm sure Nintendo could create their own movie studio and exclusively release movies under that banner.
Yeah.
And if you do that, then you're going to get people who work in that field, who work with these characters, who know these characters.
Everything about them.
Yeah. And that's how you're going to get like these great, potentially great video game adaptations.
And even use the original voiced actors.
Yeah.
I'm sure they would love to do that.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. That's what video game players want to see. They want to see the game up on the big screen. The game they've been playing for years up on the big screen. Not some Hollywood watered down version of it. They want to see what they played on the big screen.
With bringing a few new elements and a few new surprises in the mix.
Yeah.
Right? To kind of like, because they're already familiar with the story, but then to expand that universe, or like, you know, rather than doing a fourth installment in a video game franchise, make a movie.
Yeah.
I honestly feel like there's going to come a time when there's going to be a studio that exclusively does video game movies. But like you said, it should be animated.
Yeah. Agreed. Speaking of which...
Yes.
Let's move on to our... Oh, by the way, that was This Week in Geek.
Yes.
I forgot to say that at the top again.
This Week in Geek.
So let's move on to our Revs and Recs. So yeah, talking about video game films, I went and watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
I'm Sonic, a little ball of super energy in an extremely handsome package. On my planet, people were always after my powers, so I came to yours. It gets a little lonely, but that's okay. I am living my best life on Earth. Ow!
It's very... Okay, well,
what's
first...
the synopsis?
Yeah, let me do the synopsis. So, Sonic has come to our world, our universe, through the magic of the little gold rings that he has. He has like a pouch of those little gold rings that you're collecting in the video games. And essentially, if you think of a world and throw it, the ring expands into a little portal you can go through. So when Sonic was a baby, bad guys wanted his powers, and so his mentor sent him to Earth so that he could live peacefully, essentially.
Okay.
So he's been living in secret on Earth for a decade in Montana.
Nobody looks there.
No.
Huh.
And what ends up happening is one day while he's playing baseball with himself, like a la Bugs Bunny from Looney Tunes,
he ends up pitcher, and then like
he's playing
throwing it to himself. Yeah,
he's playing every position.
I think you saw that in the trailer as well.
You did. And what you also saw in the trailer is he starts running around the bases so quick because he gets emotional because he realizes how alone he is, that he goes like supersonic and completely wipes out the power on the western seaboard.
Oh, geez.
And it creates such a power surge that all of a sudden the government notice, and so the government starts honing in on where it happened, and so all of a sudden, you know, he's worried that he's going to get discovered, and so he ends up going to...
Is that how you get the doctor involved?
Dr. Robotnik?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's part of
the government.
He's part of the government.
Okay.
Yeah. So how James Marsden gets involved is Sonic ends up going to his place because he's been watching him for years.
That's not creepy.
In secret, yeah. He's been watching the whole town.
Okay. Him, exclusively him while he sleeps. And
it's kind of a Hunchback in Notre Dame thing. Like he's, he knows everybody, but nobody knows him.
Okay.
So he ends up going there, and he's about to throw his little gold ring to go to this mushroom kingdom.
Okay. Oh, man.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's a Mario tie-in. I don't know. But before he can do that, he gets shot in the leg with a tranq dart, and by James Marsden, who's wearing a San Francisco t-shirt, and so he thinks San Francisco, and then the gold ring all of a sudden opens up a portal to San Francisco, all his coins drop into the portal, and the portal closes. And so now it becomes a road trip where he has to get to San Francisco to go get his rings. But he doesn't know the ways. That's why he needs James Marsden, because he could just run there in a couple seconds and get it, which creates a giant plot hole in the film, but whatever.
Right? He's able to take all these little, scenic routes and paths and... do you think that the government would be able to see him running?
It's implied no.
Okay.
No. So that's the synopsis. Now it's basically become a road trip movie, and they're being chased by Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey, who is essentially the best thing in this film.
Really?
He is. It's because it's good to see Jim Carrey be Jim Carrey again.
Right.
Be goofy and zany, because that's what he does best. Not these serious roles that he's been taking on lately, and, just he's going back to basics here, and it's great. And the only time I laughed in this entire film was when he was on screen.
Okay.
Yeah. Sonic got annoying after a while.
He was like, all right, stop.
Yeah. Yeah, he never shut up. I mean, he was constantly talking, and it's just, it got annoying.
Ran his mouth faster than he did his legs.
And it's a very middle-of-the-road film. It's extremely mediocre. It could be so much worse, but it could be so much better.
Right.
It was just a very safe, average film.
So did it give any insight into the whole Sonic universe?
No.
Not even with those rings?
No.
Okay.
You get pretty much no explanation of how these portals work. You're given no explanation of where Sonic got his power. Oh, no, he was born with them, apparently. Where did he get the powers? Who knows?
Right.
Who are his parents? Nobody knows. But he was just born with these abilities.
So rather than taking a road trip, they should have had Sonic, his origins explained, and then he comes here for some reason. Yeah. They could have done a much better job with it.
Let's spend a little bit of time in Sonic's world first.
Right.
Kind of explaining things, instead of just the 5 minutes that we got.
Did they introduce anybody else? Like Knuckles or Tails?
Because I doubt anybody is going to see this film. Yes, they did.
Okay.
Tails does appear as kind of a post-credit scene. Yeah. No Knuckles, but they did introduce Tails.
Meaning there is going to be a sequel?
I think so. The movie is done fairly well that it probably does warrant a sequel. Even though I was sitting in the theater by myself.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because it was in the morning on a weekday.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was just so, like I said, so average, so middle of the road. I mean,
visually was it decent?
Predictable. It was visually it was fine. The effects with Sonic, he looks great. I'm glad they fixed him. because the CG does actually look pretty good. But the fact that there's this giant plot hole that Sonic could just easily run to San Francisco, even though he doesn't know the way, he could easily find it. And the fact that pretty much everybody's just kind of phoning their performance in, especially James Marsden.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only shining light in this whole film was Jim Carrey, honestly.
And for the most part, he did a decent job.
Yeah, because he's the only one that I think knew what type of movie they were in.
Right.
It's a kid's movie about a video game character, and he plays the villain, so he's going to be completely over the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, where James Marsden is playing it pretty much straight. So, anyway. So, out of 5 gold rings...
Yes?
I would give it... I'm tempted to give it 1, but I'm going to bump it up to 1.5 just because of Jim Carrey.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, like I said, that was the only time I ever laughed in the film was from him. So,
I did see a little bit more of a serious movie this week. It's called The Way Back, starring Ben Affleck.
You know what my dad told me last night? He said that you got a full ride to Kansas. You just quit. Why?
My father didn't like me very much, and someone told him I was good at basketball, and he paid a lot more attention to me. And I realized it wasn't me that he loved. It was what I could do. I spent a lot of time hurting myself, trying to hurt my father. I never picked up a basketball again.
You do love a sports movie, Underdogs.
I really do. I will go see any of them. I've got the majority, and I've seen a ton of them. Like Remember the Titans, We Are Marshall, Coach Carter, Rocky, Creed, all these movies. I do love sports movies. But this was a sports movie, but so much more. Ben Affleck, his character is a struggling alcoholic. Man, this dude, he drinks. He takes a beer with him to the shower. And,
So,
instead
true
of,
to life, probably.
Right? Yeah.
With Ben Affleck.
It wasn't much of a stretch.
Yeah.
And, man, he kind of let himself go after doing Batman.
Yeah.
To where he's got the dad bod down. But he plays this...
Called the Ben bod.
Yeah. Struggling alcoholic who's dealing with some grief that I don't really want to spoil. His ex has since moved on, and she kind of comes back a little bit. But he was a former high school basketball star who had a full ride to any college that he wanted to, basically, or to a great college. I believe it was Kentucky. Or no, maybe it was Kansas.
I think it was Kansas.
I think it was, yeah. He had a full ride and he didn't accept that. But it's really interesting because he plays basketball, or he coaches this team. He kind of gets a second chance. All these people, after a divorce kind of reach out to you and be like, hey, how you doing? Which is very relatable. Where they're just like, hey, just want to see how you're doing. You want to come over to dinner?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, okay. And those kind of people, I really appreciated and liked Ben's reaction to this whole thing, because he was just no, he kind of secluded himself and kind of went all introvert, because he didn't want to deal with his family. And even when he does show up to these family gatherings, he's late, which is sister makes sure to point out. Which, man, I just wanted to hit her. I was just what the heck? I get that she was trying to help and she was trying to be there for him, but at the same time, she was just kind of doing that, man, you could have showed up on time and at least brought something. And she's just throwing in these little snarky, snide remarks he just kind of doesn't even ignores her and starts talking to the kids, across the table. But to me, it was a much different take on a sports movie, because he gets a second chance to kind of coach these kids, but he is by no means perfect, and neither are these kids. They're very, very, very flawed. And for being in a, because they played for this Catholic school, bishop, they swear a ton. And like they have a priest that's kind of like on standby that's like follows the team around, and he keeps like saying, dude, like language kind of a deal. But he's just like, he even gets to the point where he's given this like speech to these kids where he's like, dude, like check in your pants, see if you got a pair, let's nut up, and like let's because you're playing like a bunch of he just goes off on them, and I'm like, oh man, this is like a brutal coach. But it was kind of the push that these kids needed. He doesn't let them like slack off, but at the same time he's also drinking, and it was really well done, but it didn't have that one kind of a moment that you're looking for in most sports movies, to where it's just like they get all of their shit together and they come together for this moment. It was like they're still struggling. Like even though they start to succeed, they're still struggling, and it's like 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And yeah, he's a very flawed individual, but it was really nice to see him play in a different role, to where he had to use like a lot broader range of his acting abilities. It reminded me, it was really reminiscent of, did you ever see the movie Manchester by the Sea?
I never did.
Very reminiscent of that kind of a movie. Kind of slow, drawn out for it being a sports movie. But I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it didn't have one of those happy-go-lucky, shoots the winning shot kind of a moment.
Right.
I would probably, out of 5 basketballs, I would probably be sitting at about 3.5, almost 4.
Wow.
It was really well done. I was pleasantly surprised with it, because I hadn't seen, like, they hadn't really showed much about this movie.
Yeah.
But no, it was really well done.
Okay, I like the fact that that they showed that the coach was very flawed and remained flawed. Because most of the time, like, remember the Titans or We Are Marshall, they bring in like this Denzel Washington.
Yeah, they bring in this perfect coach,
Matthew McConaughey,
and all the kids are flawed.
Yeah.
But they don't really show all the time a flawed coach.
Yeah.
No, he showed up to one of their things, like, drunk. Like, and he's constantly going out to the bar, and man. It's one thing after another.
All right. So now let's talk about a movie that we both have seen, which is The Invisible Man.
Yes.
Adrian's dead.
Listen, you're getting your freedom back, okay?
He said that wherever I went, he would find me. Walk right up to me, and I wouldn't be able to see him.
Adrian is dead.
He's not dead. He has figured out a way to be invisible.
This is a story that has been around for a long time.
It has.
Long time. But they found a way to make it interesting again.
Yeah.
So,
because like when you think of the Invisible Man, you usually connect that with like the Wolf Man and the Swamp Thing and like all these other like Dr. Frankenstein, right?
Yeah.
But they had found a way to make it like present day, almost like a sci-fi psychological horror thriller.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So the movie stars Elizabeth Moss, who you'll know from Handmaid's Tale.
Yes.
Who is the wife of this
very brilliant, abusive, manipulative.
Yeah. He's an inventor. He's a genius when it comes to visuals and optics and all that sort of thing. They live on this like giant compound.
I love their house that they lived in, dude. I would totally live in that place. You know, like the bed, like there's all these different mirrors, or not mirrors, but like windows, and then they've got the ocean view.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. But they were very secluded.
Yes. And so the opening of the film is her escaping from this. A very tense few minutes.
Yeah.
Because it is silent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the get-go. And as soon as she kicked that dog's bowl.
Scared the crap out of me. Yeah. I jumped.
Yeah. Like, they found a way to seriously make it, like, really scary and compelling. There was nothing, like, he wasn't even moving. Like, I kept thinking in my head, dude, keep checking. He's gonna disappear. He's not gonna be there for a second. Like, yeah.
I thought for sure that's what they do. She'd check her phone and he'd be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, they did, but they didn't. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how the movie opens, is her escaping from this guy. And she learns, and it's in the trailer, so it's not giving anything away, that he has committed suicide, supposedly.
Right.
And he has left her $5 million.
That he'll be giving to her, like, what was it?
$100,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
She has since, like, is living with another couple, two people, individuals. And, yeah, her sister's kind of in the picture a little bit, but, man, she has got some, like, PTSD from this guy.
Yeah.
And you really don't, it's not until towards the end that you kind of get a full picture of just how horrible of a person he was.
Yeah. Yeah, like, she could not step out of the house.
Right.
Like, that's how bad it was.
Which sheds a lot, sheds a light on some of these debilitating diseases and, like, things that people are struggling with, right?
Yeah.
That they just they got so much anxiety and so much, I don't even know what it would be, but mental health they bring up a lot in this.
Yeah. So then what starts to happen is you start to see all these things start to happen while she's in the house. Like, she'll leave the frame, and then, like, the stove gets turned up.
Mm-hmm.
And so the food that she's making catches on fire. That's another thing. The camera work in this was brilliant.
Oh, fantastic. Dude, you could be focusing just on a room, and there was nothing in the room, but yet you still found yourself looking around, seeing if there's any objects moving, seeing what was going on.
Because what they would do sometimes is characters would be talking, and while the characters continue to talk, the camera will pan over to just some empty corner and then pan back.
Right.
So the camera's basically saying, hey, he's right there.
Mm-hmm. Or is he?
Right? Yeah, exactly. Or sometimes the camera will kind of be from, like, his point of view, you know?
Oh, yeah. Where, like, he's looking down a hallway.
Yeah.
The camera angles were fantastic in this movie.
Yeah, it was really good.
Cinematography?
Yes.
It's going to win an award for sure.
I hope it does.
Yeah.
It was, yeah.
It's going to be one of those ones that, like, since it's happened, in March, we might forget about it, but it's going to be brought back to light.
And like I said, it takes the Invisible Man story and kind of flips it on its head, because most of the time you're following the guy, the Invisible Man.
Right.
But this time you're actually following the victims.
Right.
Which makes for an interesting plot, because you're with them. You don't know where this guy is.
No.
You don't know where he's going to pop up next. And so you're feeling the tension with her.
Yeah,
the
my
entire
heart was in my chest, like, half the movie. And, like, it was so quiet in the theater.
Yeah.
It was a packed theater that I was in. But, like, you could have heard, like, a pin drop.
Yeah. Especially when she was up in the attic.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
I'm like, man. What is she doing? Don't touch that knife.
Yeah.
Like, don't be like, because she was like, started looking at her, like, her drawings and stuff. I'm like, he could be behind you.
Yeah.
Oh, and like the couple of times that you do, there are a few jump scares, but it was so well executed. That one where she's looking down and she throws the paint.
Oh, yeah.
Woo, man.
Yeah.
That was good. It just goes to show how great like a movie can be, and it doesn't have to be all these huge special effects.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it had some good effects.
Oh, for sure.
Like the first time when she got up in the middle of the night and tried to grab the sheet and it stopped.
Yeah.
And you saw
a
footprints on it. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
Like it's just, yeah. It just has so much tension and suspense in it. And I wouldn't call it a horror film.
No.
It's definitely a thriller.
Horror elements.
There are horror elements, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
To me, though, the movie does fall apart a little bit at the end.
There are a couple of plot holes.
Yeah, and I think
with traveling.
Yeah.
And an Uber.
Well, yeah. That didn't make sense. But I thought at the end it leaned more into the horror aspect, which I don't think they needed to do that much.
Oh, you're talking like with the rain?
Well, and when her whole climax of the end, what happens.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. I think it went a little bit too horror movie there, but I think they could have handled it a little better. But overall, it's a really good film.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely worth checking out.
And, like, okay, can we just say how good... Like, I'm seriously going to I'm going to follow her even more than I have before. Elizabeth, Moss, she's a fantastic actress.
Oh, yeah. She puts on a clinic in this film.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times she's acting against nothing.
Right.
And I'm totally buy it.
I'm still curious about how they were able to do some of those effects.
Yeah.
Like when she's struggling in the kitchen.
Yeah.
I don't even know how. I mean, I'm sure it was probably just like somebody in a suit.
Somebody in a green suit or something. I think so.
Right?
I would imagine that's what it was,
but it was still like fantastic. And like we've all had those moments in our lives where we weren't believed by other people, and we were kind of like, and you felt for her because she's not crazy.
Yeah.
She's got a legitimate problem here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the other thing that helps with the suspense is there's no music in this film.
Yeah.
Like it is dead silent. And so when she's wandering through the house because she hears something and it's completely silent, like it just adds to the tension. I think if there were music, that might have taken away from it a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not to throw like any type of shade, but like this movie is what I would have liked to have seen from A Quiet Place.
Okay.
Right? Just that they really nailed it when it comes to being silent in the right moments.
Right.
Even like the people, like they lingered on some of those scenes where, they stopped talking, but then like you find yourself like listening to see if you can hear like a footprint or a footstep or something else.
Yeah. Yeah, when she's in a room and she has spread out all these coffee grounds on the floor so she can hear him coming.
Except for she missed the spot. And I'm like, dude, he's going to come for that spot.
Yeah. And when she's just sitting here in the corner and pretty much having a conversation with him, and the camera shows her talking, and then it'll cut to the doorway, the open doorway, and it's silent, and then cuts back to her, and she keeps talking.
Yeah.
Man, it's really good. It's really clever.
It is.
So out of, 5 pills?
Sure.
Diazepam?
Yeah.
Man, I'm sitting at like, I'm sitting on probably a 4.
4?
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
Because they they managed to make something original out of this story that's been done for decades.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely go check out The Invisible Man. Okay. So, let's wrap it up, I guess. Oh, before we do, remember to nominate your films for March Movie Madness in April. You can do that all over our social media, anywhere we are. Throw in a comment, throw it on my page, throw it on AJ's page, on our Instagram, wherever. We've already had several movies coming in. There's still some that I gotta add.
And please do remember, like, you can't nominate any of the ones that have previously won.
Right. Yep. And also remember, if somebody's nominated a film, you can still nominate that film.
Exactly.
As well, because that's how they compete.
Mm-hmm. Is because what we'll do is, if we get a film that's got like 10 nominations, it's obviously going to be one of the like higher seats.
Yeah.
When we actually do start, competing, when they do start competing against each other.
Yeah. So yeah, look forward to that. Okay. So here's where you can find us. You can listen to all of our episodes at worldwarg.podbean.com. We're also on iTunes, Google Play, CosmicPotatoNetwork.com, or wherever podcasts are. On the social media, you can find us on Facebook.com/WorldWarG Podcast. We're also on Twitter and Instagram. Just search at WWG Podcast. You can find all of our merchandise at shop.spreadshirt.com/WorldWarG. You can also email us anytime,
day or night,
at worldwgpodcast@gmail.com. You can also call or text the show at any time on our listener line at 385-240-1692. And I know we have listeners in New York.
Yes.
So give us a call, New York.
Yeah.
Let us know who you are. Other than that, this has been World War G, episode 259. That has been AJ.
That has been Troy.
Stay geeky, my friends.